Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm sharing something very special. The one and only audio from my recent masterclass on owning your story, stepping into your vision, and becoming the woman who truly believes in her own power. This session was created to help you reconnect with yourself, remember who you are, and see what becomes possible when you choose to rise. I hope that as you listen, you find exactly the message you needed today. Let's dive in. My first webinar was in September, on the 8th of September, and I remember I was so freaking nervous. I was so nervous 3 days before the webinar. I was driving my friends insane because I kept telling them that I don't know how I will make it. This time, 3 months later, it's a completely different feeling. I didn't feel nervous. I felt actually even excited to do this because so many things have changed from September until today. And this is actually the thing we are going to talk about. So the reason I organized the Curiouspreneur Masterclass is because I felt the need to say everything that's been on my heart for the last couple of years, everything I went through, and the way I went from being a corporate woman to being an entrepreneur, but not only an entrepreneur, but actually being a woman who is living her true potential. And I want you to take this word with you after this masterclass, is to be a woman who lives her true potential. I've been in the self-growth world for 3 years now, and there came a point where I realized that I needed to go away from theory and step into action. And 2025 for me has been a year of the biggest actions I've ever taken in my life. I've been throwing myself into fire literally every week. When I reach a point where I feel like I don't even know what I'm doing anymore, or my energy drops, I just know that it's time to challenge myself and throw myself into fire. And that's what I kept doing for months. But I reached a point where something inside of me still didn't change. You know, when you keep doing things that scare you, but you still deep inside feel like this little girl who's not really owning her story. You know, okay, I'm trying these things, I'm doing all of these things, but something inside of me is still scared. Something inside of me is still small. And that's how I felt, even in September. In October, I made one of the biggest decisions in my life, which not only changed my energy levels, but it also started changing something inside of me. As of October, and this is only the beginning, mind you, but as of October, I truly feel like I'm becoming a woman who's able to own her story, power, and vision. And this is what we're going to talk about here today. Now, I know all of you are here for different reasons, but I think all of you are here because of a feeling, because you want to learn something, you want to become better, you want to change your life. Maybe it's the way I marketed the Curiouspreneur Masterclass, or maybe it's something that I do or told you before, but you are here because of yourself, because you want to change something deep inside of yourself. I will take a moment now because I prepared a presentation that I want to share with you during this masterclass, which I think will help. Do you see my screen? Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Okay, so we can start. So the goal of this masterclass, taking into account the introduction I've already made, is for you to be or to feel more confident in owning your story and standing strong in your power and connecting to your future vision. So the masterclass will consist of 2 parts. The first part is basically we go through owning our story, what it takes to truly own your story, what it takes to truly connect your mission and purpose in life. And the last part, which for me was, I don't even know how the word I would use, but the part that completely changed the way I do things is owning your power. We'll talk about feminine energy and the power of manifestation. So we will start with owning our stories because that is the first part. But before we start, I just want to say that there will be takeaway questions for you. So after each part, you will get a question that you won't have to answer right now because I know these things require time, but you will get a question that you can write either in your notes or on your phone that you can take with you later on to reflect on your specific journey. Okay, let's start. So the first one is, and my favorite, because it actually sparked the beginning of my journey, is about curiosity, childhood, and finding the internal compass. The other day, I was talking to my husband and I told him, I wish I knew how I am so delusional when it comes to everything in life. And while I was asking that question, I realized that the reason I'm delusional, the reason I'm also standing here in front of you and, organizing my own masterclass is because I was able to hold the little Nina inside of me. I was able to reawaken the magic from childhood. I always felt that the little Nina was with me all along, but I never felt like I was truly listening to what she wanted until a point in time where I decided to look at her. And that same magic, that same little Nina has allowed me to move faster than my surroundings or anyone I know, but at the same time, not to move from that hustler energy or burnout, but to move from a pure wish of being me, from my internal compass, which we will talk about. So there was not a time of me being alive that I didn't go towards what I want. I lead myself every day with 3 statements in life. The first one is, if the little Nina saw you, would she be happy? If the 80-year-old Nina saw you, what would she think of you? The second is, a creative adult is a child that has survived. This one I remember when I was working in Brussels, I was in my office, and I read this somewhere. I think it was Twitter back in the days. And I was glued to this photo for days onwards because I kept thinking and asking myself, did I survive? Did I survive? Am I alive? Am I creative? The sole purpose of me asking that question was an answer in itself. The third one is, always remember your why. These 3 statements are on my vision boards everywhere, all over the house. And all 3 of them remind me of my essence and further down the road, purpose in life. But let's go back to when you were a child. You probably had an interest of your own, something that you loved doing. In my personal case, I loved asking questions, talking, and being around people. I loved when guests would come over, and my mom was going crazy because of that, because I kept inviting people over to my place. I loved sharing toys with other kids, and I loved studying about the universe. Mystical stuff had me from the beginning. But the fact that I loved to talk and argue was widely accepted in my family as a skill a lawyer would have. You see, we humans, we love to understand this world through the prism of labels or callings, call it whatever you want. But the reality is, if you're a child and let's say you love to talk and argue, as I did, they say you'll become a lawyer. You love to take care of people, you're a nurse. You love playing with Legos, you're an engineer, and so on. But what I want to say is that all of these professions are actually human-made. They are invented by humans. But what is not invented by humans is the intrinsic pull you have towards something as a child. It has nothing to do with human inventions. And that intrinsic pull is your internal compass in life. It's something you were born with, and it's something that talks to you every day, but only if you let it. We humans, most of the time, have the need to explain everything. We have the need to have an answer for everything. But what I realized is that magic happens when you let things be as they are. My daughter, for example, she's now very, very curious, and she's a girl boss. She's very stubborn. She has to get her own way. She loves to negotiate. And so many of our family members keep saying, oh, she will be a CEO, something like that. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't label her at all, because if I label her, I will be limiting her world. She can be whatever she wants to be. And if I nurture her curiosity the right way at this moment, her view of the world will expand. She will understand that truly great leaders rely on their internal compass more than their calling. They don't even care about their calling. And her internal compass will actually take her where she needs to go. I want you to take a moment now and to think about your own internal compass. What was it communicating to you? What moments or experiences made you feel proud, curious, or simply deeply moved? Like for me, it was the mystical stuff, always something out of the ordinary. And even so young, I knew what interested me and what didn't. But the ordinary things were the things that I had to accept, just like you, in order to fit into today's society. So take your phone or a piece of paper and write down this question. What was your internal compass communicating to you when you were a child? Next, and this is one of my favorite things that I've heard, is about connecting the dots. I'm not sure if you girls listened to a speech given by Steve Jobs at Stanford University in 2005. If you haven't, I honestly suggest that you do, because that speech completely blew me away and changed the way I see certain things. In that speech, Steve Jobs says that you cannot connect the dots looking forward, but you can always connect the dots when you look backwards. So what does this mean? This means that you might not know why a certain thing is happening to you now. The answer might not be clear, but it is most definitely happening to you for a reason, to get you somewhere else. And the happiest people in this world know that whatever happens in life doesn't happen to them, but for them. They know that they will connect the dots later. Knowing this is so freeing because it allows you to take more risks in life. It allows you to not marinate in a decision for too long. It allows you to go towards what scares you. As I told you in the beginning, I organized my first ever masterclass this September, and let me tell you something, it completely failed. Completely. First of all, I couldn't record the meeting. Second of all, the meeting ended after 40 minutes abruptly, even if it was planned to last 1 hour. There was an issue with Zoom, and I remember finishing the meeting and being like, what in the world just happened? And even though I was really sad that it didn't go the way I wanted it to go, I just knew that there was a reason for that. And here we are 3 months later, and I connected my own dots. I know why it didn't work out. And I didn't shy away from giving myself another chance at a masterclass. It never even crossed my mind to give up or to blame myself for not working out the first time. I just knew there was a reason. Now that reason is crystal clear to me. I wouldn't have been able to pull this off 3 months ago the way I wanted to. I still didn't own my story fully as I do now. When I moved to Vienna 5 years ago, I felt like that was the worst thing that could happen to me. At that point in my life, I didn't want to move away from Brussels. I loved my life there. I loved the international community I had, as well as my job and colleagues. And I had big plans for myself. I was to work for the European institutions and help bring my own country, Bosnia and Herzegovina, inside the European Union. But then I became a mom. COVID happened. And as my husband worked at the UN in Vienna at the time, I was the one with a more flexible job, and I decided to move to Austria. The first year here was pure pain and isolation. I kept weeping about my old life and complaining how I didn't like the city. But then something magical happened to me. In the next 3 years, silence. And when I say silence, I mean that life slowed down. I was pulled away from my international community, and I was in a city where I didn't actually have any friends. We were mostly at home, and when I wasn't working with being a mom, I was studying. I was listening to podcasts, reading books, learning from inspiring people from all over the world, and broadening my horizons. And for the first time in my life, probably, I had time to just be, to just exist, to focus on myself, and to silence the noise. Connecting the dots now, Vienna was the best thing that happened to me. Had it not happened to me, I wouldn't be here today. I would probably be chasing something that I don't even care about. Trust, faith, and certainty are all muscles that we build. But we have to train those muscles, just like we have to train our own muscles. And we train it through these contrasting moments where we feel like things are going wrong. I remember after the September masterclass, my energy went completely down because I started asking myself, what am I doing? What is my vision? Why am I doing what I'm doing? I felt like my energy was down and I wasn't even sure if I wanted to continue my story because I didn't have the physical proof that it was working. But what I realized was that I needed to go through even those moments, those tough moments, those moments where you feel like nothing is working out for you, because those are the moments of transformation. Those are the moments that shape you. And after those moments, things can never be the same again for you. And it taught me one big lesson is that when I'm in that moment, next time, to try to go through more consciously, to verbalize things, to verbalize how I feel and to verbalize that it will get better. There's a reason I'm going through what I'm going through. And I know it's not easy. It's easier said than done for all of us, but it's the only logical solution. It's the only way to go on to still live our true potential. Question for you. Did you ever think about your dots? Try to connect them until this moment in your life, because I promise you, this will not only help you clarify your own story, but it will also help you trust the process a little bit more the next time you will be in a challenging situation. The next part is about owning your vision and finding purpose in life. That's the first part of owning our vision. Your purpose in life will always be linked to that internal compass we talked about that we all had as kids. And it will come from a place that you can't really rationalize, a mystical place, as I like to call it, that is hidden within each of us. A place that you will only be able to find if, first of all, you ask the right questions, and second of all, you go into consistent action. Having a purpose is something that keeps us going even when times get tough. The reason I was able to leave this dark place that I've been in is simply because I had a purpose. Having a purpose means our mission is so much bigger than ourselves, and being fearful, for example, of what other people will think will always fall into the second place when you know what your mission in life is. I read the story the other day of a survey they did in the United States. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but they were researching the worst possible job to have. And being a hospital cleaner came first. And they asked the first group of cleaners on why they don't like their jobs. And they named reasons such as having to clean all day, only to have it dirty again after 5 minutes. So they didn't see any effects of their work. Then they said that they had to watch people die all the time and be around sick people. The interviewees then went to the other group of hospital cleaners who didn't say that their job was the worst in the world, and they asked for their point of view. And those cleaners said that they found purpose in what they were doing. For example, one of them said that the cleaner the hospital is, the more time the family of the sick person will spend with the sick person. And the sooner the sick person will actually heal and get better. So they found that cleanliness of the hospital was directly linked to the chances of the sick person actually getting better. So they didn't think that they were only cleaning the toilets. They thought they were actually saving people's lives. I literally have goosebumps now as I'm telling you this, because the first time I heard this story, I literally felt that way. For me, it was such a beautiful thing because I've met, and I'm sure you've met those kind of people in your life when you simply know that somebody's doing this from a place that is out of this world. It has nothing to do with the physical 3D world that we live in. That person or the people that you meet that have their purpose, you just feel it. You can't even use words to describe that. But so seeing your role in the healing of the society when it comes to finding your purpose in life is pivotal. Purpose is everything. It keeps us going. Without a purpose, we get lost, and bad emotions and beliefs can take over much sooner. In today's society, unfortunately, we are doing it completely the other way around. We are obsessed with results, and we don't learn about purpose. In this regard, of course, education would truly need to change, which is one of my big topics and one of my ways that I'm trying to actually bring purpose to myself and bring value to this world. I remember when I was studying business in school, I couldn't be bothered. I simply couldn't be bothered. I had no interest in being an entrepreneur and spending my life chasing success and money. I remember only 4 years ago, somebody would ask me, would you ever have your own business? My first answer would be, God, no. I want to close my laptop at 5 and I want to forget about everything and just enjoy my free time. But things really changed for me when I realized there was a whole different story to business. One where it's not connected to success or money or fame. The unfortunate part is that this side of business is not taught in schools. This side of business, you can only learn if you're curious enough, like most of you are here. If you're curious enough to ask the right questions, find mentors, and surround yourself with people who think alike. My life changed when I figured out there is more to all of these things we're talking about here today. The change of my life, as I was telling you, actually started this year when I really started digging deep into all of these topics. My husband and I attended Dr. Joe Dispenza's retreat in February, and after that retreat, my life was simply never the same again. And let me tell you something, I could probably fit in 10 years of classical education into that one weekend. We didn't learn about strategy, techniques, or something dry. We learned about this world and who we are as human beings, simply. We learned about our potential and immense, immense possibility that is hidden within each of us. In only 2 days, that man was able to give me my power back and make me want to go after whatever it is that I wanted at that point. And after that weekend, I felt like I was able to change the whole freaking world. For all of you who don't know who Joe Dispenza is, he's actually the first man in the world that connected the spiritual with science. He found scientific proof in the things we call voodoo nowadays, and proved that those things like energy and the power of our thoughts are in fact true. His famous quote that I wrote here goes something like this: same thoughts create same beliefs create same behaviors create same experiences, and same experiences create the same emotions. So in essence, this means that if we keep repeating the same thoughts to ourselves, like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not confident enough, or who am I to do this? Our emotions will stay the same, and our experiences in this life will stay the same. He takes it one step further, though, to say that if we are, and this is my favorite part, if we are able to connect with our future self and connect to the emotion of the future, we become pure energy that attracts different opportunities in our lives, and we are no longer matter or a body. I know this can seem overwhelming now if you haven't gone to a Dispenza retreat, but I know for sure that you girls think about this as well. You think about yourself in the future, who you are. But to me, it really helped me to tune in and connect with the Nina that I could see I could become, tuning into that true potential. I will for sure organize another masterclass on tuning into your future potential, because this is something absolutely life-changing. Like before the masterclass, I did a dispensa meditation. It's called Changing Boxes. And it really helps you leave this reality and tune in with the future reality of yourself. So you connect with the emotions of, let's say, how Daniela feels in the future. Who is that Daniela? Who is that Tiana, Dorotea, Maya? Who are you in the future? And you can connect with yourself through these meditations, through daily visualizations. And that is the most powerful tool you can have for yourself. But we will definitely talk about this a bit more. We have a comment from Maria. I absolutely love and agree. Oh, the screen went. I will check the comments after the presentation because I'm sharing. I don't want to ruin it for other people who are will be watching later. Maria, so I will definitely get back to your questions right after the presentation ends. Okay, so after the weekend with Joe Dispenza, what happened was that I found my sense of purpose. A sense of belonging to this world that was elevated. And I felt something was bigger than me. My mission was loud and clear. First of all, my mission was to introduce a new way of education for kids through the lens of curiosity and exploration. My second mission was to guide women back into their power, vision, and innate curiosity. Mind you, this was not something that happened right after the weekend, that, everything was clarified. No, but what was clarified was the fact that there was something bigger than me, that I'm a person who has a mission in this world, that I'm not meant to lead a normal life. And I had to follow that feeling. And only by following that feeling, I could clarify more or less what my mission is, and I could verbalize it. But what happened was that I had no doubt that I wasn't good enough for that anymore. I knew that whatever I needed to achieve was already inside of me. I just needed to practice my thoughts and keep connecting with my future self. And you know that being a human is tricky, messy, and frankly speaking, very, very hard. But once we know the code, once we know how our brains work, we rise above the human experience and we're better equipped to actually navigate the hardships and challenges that come along with being human. You can write down the next question for yourself. What is my purpose in life? And who do I want to serve? When you start answering this question, please take some time, as what you write here will be the thing that will act as your muse. So something you're going towards and making every decision in accordance with this. If you don't know quite yet what to write, please don't write it now. Like, you can explore, question, and the answer will come. But I just want you to have this question in your mind, whatever you do. I want you to actively seek it, because I promise you, life is so much easier when you're on a mission. Do what you love. I know you've heard this before. But as with all matters of the heart, you will know when you find it. Don't settle for anything less than that. The next part of owning our vision is the power of becoming, or manifestation, as we call it nowadays. I spent a lot of time in my life thinking about the power of manifestation. And I know it's a trendy word nowadays, but it's also a word that is not quite well understood. Most people think that manifesting is about dreaming and sort of, going towards your dream, hoping they will happen just because we are manifesting our dreams to happen. The truth couldn't be further than that. I realized that I myself have been manifesting since I was a little girl. And even though I didn't know that it was actually manifestation at the time. Most of you here who have been following my journey will know that I grew up in India and that I went to an Indian school. And as part of that, I was lucky enough to collect ancient wisdom at an early age. I did yoga and meditation every day. So every day when we would get to school, we would first do yoga and meditation, and only then we could go for classes. So very early on, I learned how powerful our minds and bodies are. And I remember when I was moving away from India, this is a bit off topic now, but when I was moving away from India, I moved back to my home country, Bosnia. And I was in sixth grade. We had a geography class, and the teacher of geography was asking, who can tell me what the natural resource of Finland is? And just to provide context, I didn't speak Serbian that well at the time because I studied in English and in Hindi when I lived in India. So my parents took me back to Bosnia to learn our own language. So we stayed there for 3 years so I could actually learn how to write Cyrillic and how to speak in Serbian language. So that class, when the teacher of geography asked, what is the natural resource of Finland? I didn't quite understand what she meant. But just to provide context on where my brain was as a child, so I don't know how old I was, 11 probably, I raised my hand. I was the only one in class who raised her hand. And the teacher was very proud, being like, yeah, you see, because Nina is new here. She's not shy. She's raising her hand. Come on, Nina, give us the answer. What is the natural resource of Finland? And proudly, I raised my hand and I said, life. Needless to say that everyone started laughing in the classroom because obviously the natural resource of Finland wasn't life, but it was my way of understanding this world because all my topics up until the age of 11 were about life. We're about karma. We're about energy. We're about meditation. And I didn't know how to live in the reality, let's say it like that, and how to have those conversations that were detached from the conversations I had as a child. And that is actually how I remember my childhood in India. Very early on, I learned how powerful our minds and bodies are. And very early on, I received, let's call it the green light to think big and to dream. While in some other parts of the world, schools were shutting down childhood curiosity and dreaming, I was in a surrounding where dreaming was allowed. We're talking about the philosophy of life was a thing and where everyone was encouraged to speak their truth. So in my personal case, I carried a bit of that magic everywhere I went. And I always remember that before anything big happened in my life, this is a very important part, before anything big that would happen in my life, I'd feel that future in my own body first. I'd first have that experience inside of me, and then it would happen in real life. I'll give you a few more examples. Maybe that way it can help you find examples for yourself. When I was a student living in Moscow, I dreamt of living in the European Union. I dreamt of meeting people from all over the world. Back in those days, there were not a lot of expats living in Moscow. And I just wanted to be a part of an international community, to be surrounded by young people who are open towards new things. And I would imagine myself living in Brussels every day. I'd also imagined having a friend next to me, a blonde girl. She was in my head all the time. And sometimes I would go into that future so hard that I would zone out on the present moment. I was already in Brussels before I was in Brussels, and I could feel everything that will happen to me before I even got to Brussels. My whole family kept telling me, Nina, don't move to Brussels. It's boring, it's cold, it's rainy. But I didn't listen to anyone because I was already there. I manifested it. Nothing could take away Brussels from me. No rational argument, no logic, nothing. I knew I had to be there. And that's what actually happened. I came to Brussels, I was living there, and it was exactly how I imagined it. And the blonde girl I was imagining in my head, she was one of my closest friends when I lived in Brussels. So even she came true. After a couple of years of living in Brussels, I remember thinking to myself, oh, I'm ready to fall in love. I want to fall in love. But it didn't come from a place of, oh, I need to fall in love. I need someone. I need to find someone. But it came from a place of, I am so in love with myself. I am in love with the life that I created, that I'm ready to share this love with someone else right now. I remember coming home from work, going through a park in central Brussels and dancing. It was raining. I had no umbrella. And I was just singing and dancing in the park like Bridget Jones from her movies. And I remember how in love I was with everything around me. 3 months later, and my current husband and I got together. 3 months after me thinking how I'm ready to fall in love with someone else. All the best things that happened to me in life, all the best things that I, let's say, manifested, didn't come from lack or separation. Every big decision I made out of love and pure wish. Nothing more and nothing less. That's why I wrote this thing here. You lead and the universe follows. Whatever vibration, frequency, emotion, call it whatever you want. Whatever vibration you output from your own body, you will get that back. That is how this universe works. So you have to lead and the universe will follow. Taking from this, my understanding of manifestation, it's not something that we do. It's something that we are. It's something that we become. We don't react to our reality, our 3D world. We are the source of everything. Everything is inside of us. Our only obligation is to choose our vehicle and to know our direction. You can imagine sitting in a car you're driving. Where are you going? Try to imagine yourself sitting in your dream car and driving. You need to know where you're going next. Otherwise, your car can crash or run out of fuel. You need to know where you're going. Nowadays, as I told you, it's a tool that I use consciously. Previously in my life, it was a tool I used subconsciously. But nowadays, I know what it is. I know the code. I know the way it works. And I know the Nina from the future. I have met her so many times. And I know how she feels. I know where she lives. I know what she does. I know how she looks. I know her, and I'm going towards her. And just an example for all of you here, when I imagine the Nina from the future, I'm not talking about now the internal state. When I imagine her physically as well, because I imagine from both angles. When I imagine her physically as well, I can imagine her the way she's dressed, the way she holds her back, the way she talks. And I can imagine the things she wears. So just for the purpose of, for example, doing this masterclass, I stepped into the future Nina. You can't see it, but I have red high heels down below. It's just that little moment that helps me get into the power of my future self. It's a very good trick that I've been using for a while now, and it always connects me even stronger with the Nina from the future. The other day, a friend was listening to a podcast episode, because I have a podcast episode on connecting to our future selves. And she recorded a message later on saying, Nina, I believe in the power of actions and work, but I don't really believe in, just manifesting the future and connecting to yourself. And while I understood her point, I told her, I actually asked her, why would she exclude both things from each other? They're not standalone. They go in package. Why would you take away the second part of it that can actually help you stay on track with your mission and where you want to be, that can help you become that woman next to all the action that you're taking? Most of the times we can get lost with working that we forget to ask the question, why? Why are we doing what we're doing? Where are we going? And connecting to our future selves, to our mission, actually allows to filter all the decisions that we make on a daily basis through the lens of where we are going. If we don't know what we want, how can we expect to get anywhere? Question for you when it comes to this specific topic. What is your vehicle? Where is it going? Who is inside? And how does it feel to be inside? And remember, with intention plus a high emotion, the result always comes. It has to come. It's impossible that it won't come. Another favorite quote from Joe Dispenza: it's not enough to have a clear intention, because clear intentions have very little effect on the nature of reality. The driving force the handmaiden to all of that is an elevated emotion. When you combine that clear intention with an elevated emotion, it is the elevated emotion that begins to amplify the field around your body. And in that moment, you become more energy and less matter. It's funny how we always go back to the basics. We always go back to how we feel and how our body feels. And I'm sure you know in your circle of friends, people who are magnetic, people that you actually see that they're living their best life. Their emotions are high. Yes, they take action. Yes, they study. Yes, they do all of these things that all of us do. But their emotions are high, which also what I've noticed ever since becoming an entrepreneur is that I feel more alive. My emotions are higher, but when I fall into a dip, the emotions are lower as well. Previously in my life, I was a straight line. That's how I felt. Everything is fine. I'm moving through life. No, it's good. Like, just floating through everything. Now, when the emotion is high, it's high. When I'm in a dip, it goes low. But over time, you learn how to navigate those things as well. But it's very important to take your emotions with you when you enter business and to learn how to regulate your nervous system, knowing that emotions are good. My favorite part of it all, which actually puts a bow on all of the topics that we discussed, is owning your power. I wanted to start with feminine energy because this was a big, big topic for me this year. And I feel like the topic feminine energy is an important one for all of us here. This is something that changed my life completely. And this topic is something I bring into conversations and work I do with other women all the time. I grew up as a strong woman. I could do it all. I had my own job. I was confident. I was in control, as I like to call it. On the other side of that coin, I didn't know how to receive or ask for help. I thought I could do everything by myself, and I used to justify it under the umbrella of, okay, I will finish it quicker, then it would take me to show somebody else how to do it. That was my statement all the time. I thought I needed to keep helping other people around me and that I was strong enough to handle myself. I didn't expect help or anything from anyone ever. No expectations was my line all the time. But I also didn't know how to receive too much love. Like just enough was enough for me. And money, that was a topic I didn't even want to talk about. I didn't have time to think about it because I was too busy multitasking all of the things. And I was so proud that I was a woman who was able to multitask. I distinctly remember showing off how good I was at multitasking. Fast forward to today, I just want to hug that Nina and tell her that there is no need to be strong in that sense. I want to hug her and tell her that it's okay to let go. It's okay not to have to prove your worth and to tie it with the amount of things that we do on a daily basis. It's okay to stop and it's okay to let somebody else take over. It's okay to receive love, help, and abundance. What this means for me in practice is that I lead currently through my feminine energy. When it comes to my personal life, for example, I am soft, open to an enormous amount of love and help. And I'm also aware nowadays of the role a woman plays in motivating male companions to take over other parts of family life. I will not get too much into details here, but whoever might be going through topics related to this, my door is always open should you have additional questions on this specific topic. But when it comes to professional life, women have such a power that they're not even aware of. I mean, for centuries, wars were fought over women. And it is through our understanding of the world at a deeper level, nurturing power that all of us have, and softness that we can actually win. We don't need to become men or be loud to be heard, because often the most successful women in business are the ones that own their gentleness. but with more confidence, courage, and drive. The other day, I wrote a post on Instagram and I wrote that being powerful yet humble is sexy. And that is my favorite line ever because I keep repeating it in my head when I connect with the future Nina. She is powerful, but she's humble. She's not loud, she's soft. If a woman is in her true power, she will feel sexy about herself. This is something I've discovered this year. The more I'm in love with what I do, the sexier I feel. It might sound funny to you now, but it is a true story. The more beautiful I feel, the more charismatic I feel. And this reflects in every area of my life. It's not only about business. It's not only about behaving a certain way. It's how your behavior also reflects people around you. I'm leaving you with this question. Where in your life are you still operating from force? And what would happen if you allowed your feminine energy to lead instead? The last part of owning your power, I call them frequency shifters. There are a couple of tools I use daily that help me stay in the energy and frequency of the Nina I want to become, of the Nina I'm going towards. And when I use these tools, my energy completely shifts and I start to feel more powerful than I felt before practicing. The first one that I'm about to say might seem a bit dramatic to you, but I found it's a very, very powerful one. I remind myself about death every single day. I am completely aware that all of this will end soon. And this helps me put the current challenges into perspective and realize how unimportant they are in the giant spectrum of things. Remembering that we will all be dead soon can help you make the biggest choices in life. This is also something that Steve Jobs talked about in his speech. And he said that all external expectations, pride, fear, embarrassment, or fear of failure fail in the face of death. He calls death the best invention of life as it clears the old to make way for something new. It's simply the best agent of change. So while we are still new here, while it's our time on this earth, we might as well make something out of it. Whenever I have a day where I can't seem to get into that groove, into that zone, into that frequency, I literally think about my last day on planet Earth, and it helps me. I'm not sure if it's going to help you, but I felt like this was something that I wanted to convey through this masterclass, as morbid as it sounds. The second part, in Hindi, there's a saying called Ek Tatya Abhivasa, which means one thing at a time. This is something that I've been implementing on a daily basis for a while now. You see, I told you before that I used to pride myself, and I kept repeating to everyone how women are good at multitasking. I was so happy to be a highly capable woman who can do various things at the same time. In reality, I kept saying that at a time in my life where I was actually, at that time in my life, I was taking over the majority of household work, plus the kids, plus my job, and I felt very far from the future Nina. I felt disconnected, and I didn't feel sexy or powerful at all. Then, as I was entering the self-growth world, I reminded myself on this saying, and I started implementing it. Today, for example, I can't imagine multitasking just for the sake of multitasking. Like, I don't want to be multitasking. And what I mean by this is that today I am able to walk without listening to a podcast, music, or sending voice recordings. I'm able to eat without distractions. I'm able to take a shower without listening to anything. I'm able to just be. If I'm doing something, I'm focused on it fully. If I'm also listening to a podcast, I'm listening to that podcast. I'm not doing a gazillion things while doing that, because it will not land properly. I will not be connected to that future Nina. But in order to do this, it requires an enormous amount of organization and planning of your time. For me, what helps is organizing my days for different things. Like, for example, Monday is for doing administrative work, just to get it out of the week. You know, I like to do all the hard stuff in the beginning of the week so that as the week goes, I can focus on things that are more creative. Wednesday for me is always the day where I record my podcast, where I do creative things. And these things help me stay focused on specific topics without having the need to multitask and to be all over the place. The third part of this is that I put myself in the zone every day. So that really depends on how I feel. Sometimes it means listening to a 90s throwback like Avril Lavigne, big fan here, which gets me to dance and simply move my body. Other days it means just journaling, reading a book, meditating. But I would say that taking into account all of these things, the thing that I had to practice the most is how to be gentle with myself. And I'm pretty sure you're practicing that as well. And you've heard of the importance of being gentle towards ourselves. I feel like nowadays we're under immense pressure, I would say, from social media, you know, to wake up at 5 a.m. and to be super productive, to do a gazillion things and constantly feel good about ourselves, to be in the zone all the time. But I just want to say here that that is the biggest illusion. I don't think that I've ever woken up at 5 a.m., considering that my kids wake up at 6 a.m. most of the time. And I still manage to do all of those things. It is completely possible to build a life you want without the pressure of having to wake up at 5 a.m., without the pressure of meditating every day. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work. For some people, it works for sure. But for others, it doesn't. For me personally, meditation is a good practice and I use it. Like I use it before this masterclass. But it's not something I necessarily need in order to keep moving forward. I think it can be a helpful practice if you're dealing with anxiety or you're trying to connect with that future version of yourself. But meditation shouldn't be felt with pressure of doing it in order to get somewhere. Meditation can, in fact, and that's what we learned in India, it can be something as simple as eating without distractions and noticing things around you. So you can meditate without actually closing your eyes, without, doing all of those things. It's available to you at any point of the day. So I think the point is just by taking the time to simply exist. I use the word to exist like a shrimp on the couch. That's my favorite word for that. When I need to, let's say, meditate or just be without doing anything, I call myself shrimp. I want to be a shrimp. I don't want to do anything. And that is my way of meditating as well. And the last part here is to actually have the best life behind the screens. This is such an important point because I think that most of the time when we enter business, we focus so hard on building that business that we actually forget to enjoy life in the background. And it's actually through enjoying life in the background that our business becomes even better. Everything is about energy. In my specific case, when I have an issue with my husband or with my kids, no matter what day it is, the first thing I do is I talk through it. I never go angry to bed. I don't carry problems from today into tomorrow. And I most certainly don't stop talking about uncomfortable things just because they're uncomfortable. That is actually when I talk about them the most. My husband will know that because just the fact that something triggers me is enough to let me know that I need to look straight into it. I used to avoid so many things just to keep peace in the house because I didn't feel like bringing that conversation up today. But my life changed and our family life changed when we started bringing things up every single day and communicating those things. I cannot show up here for you. I cannot show up here for my other businesses if I'm in a fight with my husband or if there's something that I'm not working towards. I was telling you how I was in an energy dip in October. And the main reason for that was that I was avoiding to make a decision. We are currently in the phase of, we were for the longest time thinking actually to move to Spain, Valencia. And it's been a decision that was hanging above my head for the longest time. In September, we said that we will wait a bit to see how things go, and then we will move. And when I accepted that reality of life, my energy fell. For 2 months, I was stuck in an energy dip simply because I couldn't take ownership of a big decision, simply because I couldn't say that is what I want, I'm going towards it. The moment I had an uncomfortable conversation, the moment I said, this is what I want, and I know you want it as well, because we've talked about it, but the fear of failure was the only thing holding us back. It was simply not logical to proceed with not making that decision because we were scared that things might not work out. The moment we made the decision to move, the moment it was final, everything else opened up. My energy just unleashed. And I've learned that whenever my energy goes down, I need to look into the decisions I'm avoiding to make. It's always connected. Your energy is down, you're avoiding to make a decision, or maybe you're sitting at the same level of challenge as well. Next question for you. Which ritual instantly shifts your frequency, and what would change if you committed to it every day? The last part here, which I wanted to say and remind you, is to always surround yourself with people who can see what you can't see. This is so important because people around you should mirror you and call you out on the parts of your brain that you are blind to. You simply can't fix what you can't see. For me, a mind-blowing fact was when I learned that 95% of our brain is subconscious, which means that we are aware of only 5%. And having people around us who can keep us accountable and in check is a very big part of this journey. I remember when I started this journey, and sometimes I would share my excitement, my delusion, as I call it in the beginning, of this magical life and living the best life, and I would share it with someone, and that person would reflect back logic to me. My energy would go down, like, I'm gone, you lost me, I would retreat from those conversations. I would feel bad about myself, like, am I too crazy? But over time, I've learned not everyone can understand your level of delusion, and not everyone needs to understand your level of delusion. But your job is to surround yourself with people who can support your level of delusion, who can keep pumping you up, because you will get there. It takes time for all of these things, but you will get there with all of these tools, with owning your story, vision, power. There is not a chance in this world that you will not get there, because you will. But don't remember to surround yourself with people who see your magic and who see your potential. In January, I will be opening additional one-to-one mentoring spaces. As I told you in the beginning, my mission in life is to work with women, to remind them on who they are and to help them step back into their power. I will be using today's masterclass and everything we created here, and I will place this on literally every channel, because I think the information that was created here is so useful for anyone who's trying to build their lives and to create something. Because these things, you can learn all of the technical skills, you can learn all the self-growth topics in theory. But if it's not inside of you, if you're not that woman who can actually convey the information or become what you're talking about, it will not hit on the other side. It will simply not go through. So if any of you are on your path and if you need help, I am here for you. I want to say thank you once again for creating this magic with me. I think that this masterclass will completely be a part of me leveling up and taking you along with me. I am so grateful you took the time out of your busy schedule. I know the timing is not ideal for a lot of people. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and for supporting me on my journey. And I hope this resonates with you and helps you in different ways.
If you want to watch the full masterclass recording, including the video, slides, and all the visual parts, you can get instant access by subscribing to my newsletter through the link below. I'd love to have you inside.